How's it going, guys? Welcome to Out of Bounds. I, of course, am your host, James Skrmetta. Thank you so much for tuning in. 30 minutes, Monday. The first Monday show we've done in 2016. And in a few weeks, we did a show Friday. But, the holidays were getting us off track a little bit. So we're going to jump into this show. We got a stacked show per usual, but you guys knew that already. We're going to be talking NFL playoff game reactions. We're talking some Alabama Clemson. I'm even talking a little Making a Murderer. We're even going off the grid a bit to Netflix because, it's not all about sports. So we're going to do that. Show might be a little shorter because, for whatever reason, I talked exclusively about Alabama Clemson on Friday's show. And I don't want to pump you guys with the same show 2 weeks, 2 days in a row. So let's jump into it. Let's do some house cleaning real quick. Don't forget, guys, you can find everything that I do, the podcast, videos, articles, anything, at my website, jamesskrmetta.com. Go to YouTube, search James Skrmetta. You can find my YouTube channel where you'll find an episode of the James Skrmetta Experience every Tuesday evening and a podcast on Monday and a podcast on Friday. The Out of Bounds podcast is a simulcast on YouTube, obviously. You can also find me on iTunes, and you can find me on the Future of Radio, the Stitcher app. We partnered with Stitcher about a month ago or something. And we are part of their process now, and they help us get found by people who like this kind of content. People like Bill Simmons, people like Mark Maron, people like Joe Rogan, all are on Stitcher, and we are going head-to-head with Bill Simmons and the big dogs. So please go on over to your app store, download Stitcher, the Future of Radio app, check my show out, subscribe to it, and of course, rate and review. Now let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and jump right into the NFL slate. I film these shows on Sunday night, the Monday show, and so I just finished watching the Redskins-Packers game, and I feel heartbroken. I honestly feel heartbroken. I feel like I fell in love with someone who I knew was no good. I fell in love with the guy wearing the leather jacket, riding the motorcycle. The guy opposite John Travolta, or the opposite John Travolta in Grease 2. You know what I'm talking about? Not the Australian guy with the motorcycle. The T-Bird guy, the wannabe John Travolta. I fell in love with him. I knew he was up to no good. I knew he was a bad boy. I knew he was going to break my heart. And that's what Kirk Cousins did to me. I knew Kirk Cousins wasn't that good. I knew the Redskins weren't that good, but I sat here on my platform with the hundreds and hundreds of people listening and told y'all the Redskins were going to win and told y'all that Kirk Cousins was the man. I was screaming, "You like that?" all week. I almost got fired like 4 or 5 times because I would just respond with everything with "You like that?" Anything. I'd go to McDonald's, "You want fries with that?" Boom, "You like that?" That's it. I'd go to the gym. "Hey, man, what's going on?" Boom, "You like that?" That's it. That's all I could do. That's all I could say. And so I sit down. Last game before I start my week, before I do the show, before I come to the studios, before I have to face the captain. Everyone knows the captain make it happen. And what happens? Kirk Cousins spits directly in my face. He walks up to me. And, we had been talking. We've been dating. He walks up to me in front of my pals and spits right in my face and drives off with some hussy. So, the Redskins thing's over. All 4 road teams won. First time in history. Kansas City destroyed Houston 30-0. Pittsburgh beat Cincinnati like we said they would, but we'll get to that in a minute. Seattle beat Minnesota like we said they would, but we'll get to that in a minute. And Washington fell to Green Bay, which we did not say was going to happen. The games were incredibly underwhelming. I saw a tweet that said these games should be on New Year's Day because that's how it felt. If you remember, the New Year's Day bowl slate was hellacious. It was garbage. It was all blowouts, and these games were the same way. They weren't blowouts, but they were just terrible football. They were not fun to watch. There was injuries. There was penalties. If you're looking at the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati scores, the game was close. Yeah, it ended exciting, I guess. But you also got Landry Jones in a playoff game. I don't want Landry Jones in a playoff game. I don't want it to be Landry Jones versus A.J. McCarron in a playoff game. Kansas City, Houston, 30-0. Nothing fun about that. Seattle, Minnesota, it was 10-9. That's a good baseball game. 10-9. Green Bay, Washington, blowout. After half, it was all Green Bay. And we now know the divisional round schedule. It's going to be right here. This might be breaking news. They might have just came out with this. This might be I'm going to go ahead and say it. Breaking news here on Out of Bounds, sports podcast with James Skrmetta. Saturday, 3:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. Chiefs versus Patriots. Chiefs at Patriots is the first game you will see of the divisional round of NFL playoffs. Following that, 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Green Bay Packers travel to Arizona, which is interesting because that means Green Bay gets a short week. They got to play on Sunday night. They turn around and play Saturday night. Interesting decision, Roger Goodell. Sunday, first game at noon, 12:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Seahawks travel to Carolina. And then at 3:30 p.m., I hate when they do this, by the way. I hate when they do the Sunday game at 3:30 because then I feel like I don't have a Sunday night game. Until football is over, until the Super Bowl is done, I want a Sunday night game every single week. Like, football will be over at 7 o'clock next week. I can't be having that. Right? Like, right now, don't like this. I want a game right now. Put the Sunday games at 3:30 and 7:30. Do it like that. But the last game of the slate is Steelers at Broncos at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. So, these remaining teams, who do we like? Who do we think is going to win? Let's actually backtrack. Let's go to I gave you all the betting, I gave you all the picks, I gave you all the winners for the NFL games. Kansas City, we nailed, whatever. Saw that coming, 30-0. KC was -3, I believe. I think I told you to buy the half point. Doesn't matter, 30-0. Winner, chicken dinner, thank you ma'am, wham bam. Seattle, Cincinnati. You know, people wonder why I drink. You know, they're like, "Oh, why do you drink? Why do you drink so much? You like the taste?" I hate the taste. I hate it. I drink because I take Pittsburgh -2.5, and the game falls 18-16. Oh, but you picked the right team. Nah, I lost by a 0.5. You know how many NFL games end with a 2-point difference? Not a lot. In my brain, and you know we buy half points for this situation, but I was thinking the difference between 2 and a 5 is nothing. You're not going to see a 2-point game. And what happened? We got whopped with a tough loss there. So whatever. That was Saturday night. We drank it away. Sunday, we wake up, make a Bloody Mary, crank on the TV. Seattle, Minnesota's playing. Seattle's -4. No big deal. Oh, you picked the winner. But 10-9. You got the winner but lost the spread. So we lost that one. And then we lost Green Bay. Obviously, we had Washington. So we went 1-3. 1-3. Good start. Enjoyable start. Awesome. Appreciate that. So let's go ahead and forget about this week. Amnesia. We'll go on to next week. We'll quickly preview this. And then we're going to jump into we'll talk some Making a Murderer next. Chiefs Patriots is interesting because the Chiefs are absolutely rolling. They are rolling right now. And the Patriots have had a week off, which is mentally you probably think, hey, that's good, right? But it can backfire whenever one team is coming off hot, one team just played, especially a game like 30-0 where it wasn't like a stressful snaps. It wasn't a tough game. It's like a warm-up game. Like Kansas City got a nice warm-up game, got their juices flowing, they got confident, they got some momentum. So Kansas City has the momentum going into this game. And Kansas City has a decent pass rush, they have a decent defense, and New England is still a little injured. They're still a little beat up. New England's whole goal here, well, I mean, everyone's goal, but New England has to get to the Super Bowl. If they get to the Super Bowl, more than likely they'll be almost completely healthy. And they'll be the team that we saw in the first 6 games of the season. But right now, they're like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh came into Cincinnati a little banged up, not full strength. They could win the game, but they weren't what they should be. Just like New England, in my opinion. New England, right now, is probably the favorite. I would say probably a 3-point favorite, something like that. But it's a tough task to ask New England to go. Kansas City's probably the hottest team, without a doubt. They're the hottest team in the AFC. They won 11 straight games, and New England has to host them. I guarantee you, right now, New England wishes they had the 1 seed because they wish Pittsburgh, a very injured Pittsburgh team, a team that might not even have Ben Roethlisberger, might not have Antonio Brown, does not have D'Angelo Williams, does not have Le'Veon Bell. I guarantee you, New England wishes they were hosting Pittsburgh. And I also guarantee you, if Kansas City was going to Denver, they'd beat Denver. But New England has the X factor. New England has the X factor. They have Tom Brady. And look, it's a quarterback-driven league. We've said it a million times. We take quarterbacks, especially in the playoffs, especially at home. Tom Brady, in my opinion, which I've said on this show, is the best quarterback of all time. And he's playing at the highest, a high level, Wiz Khalifa level. And to think that Alex Smith will go in there and win, even though their team is hotter, even though their team might be better, is a tall task. So I'm still going to take New England in that game. And the lines have not been released yet. We'll talk about the lines as the game gets closer. Green Bay, Arizona. I'm taking Arizona, even though Arizona just got swapped by Seattle in the last game of the season. I don't think Green Bay is that good. I'm not really sure what happened in this Washington game. They just quit getting pressure on Rodgers. They gave Green Bay the ball way too many times. I thought Washington was going to roll all over them whenever they jumped up. Deshaun Jackson not getting in the end zone may have changed the game. There's a big difference between it being 11-0 to 15-0. So, huge difference. I'll say Arizona wins that one tidily. I don't think it's going to be, if I had to guess, the line will probably be a touchdown. Arizona -6, -7, something like that. So I don't think it's going to be close. Sunday, Carolina hosting Seattle. Same deal. Seattle's hot. They should not have, man, I was just knocked my hot chocolate all over the place. Seattle should not be playing this game. It should be Minnesota. But that's another double-bladed sword. Yes, they should have lost, but they won. And that idea of that we can't lose, that magical kind of the last second thing, they're winning at the 11th hour, that does something. The Mets did that in the World Series or in the playoffs. They had this magical Daniel Murphy will hit home runs, we will win games. And they did. Like, it's this crazy. Sports is much more about momentum and psychology and stuff like that than people give it credit for. And Carolina sitting at home, coming off cold, this is the first game they're playing. Seattle, even though they are traveling across the country, which you know that I hate. I hate picking teams that are traveling across the country. So we are going to take Carolina and winning this game. And if Carolina wins this game, the winner of this game will be in the Super Bowl. You can go ahead and write that down. You can have that. Have that. Tell people that later today when you listen to the show. You go back to the water cooler talk or whatever you talk with your friends. Tell them that the Seattle-Carolina game is the NFC Championship game. It is the NFC Championship game, and whoever wins that will play in the Super Bowl. That's what I believe. I believe Seattle just has this swagger, this experience, and they just know how to get it done, and they will get it done. Last game, Steelers-Broncos. I do like the Steelers, but they're just too hurt, bottom line. Big Ben, I don't even know if he can throw. He might not even play. Antonio Brown probably has a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. If he doesn't play, they're just too banged up. Steelers are dangerous when they're healthy. If they were healthy, I would give them the chance, but I don't think they're winning this game, especially if these people are hurt. Roethlisberger's a warrior. He'll probably go out there, probably try and play, but even a 60% Roethlisberger, that defense is too good, and Peyton Manning, he knows he'll manage the game. He'll keep them in it, I'll say Denver. So I'll say the AFC and NFC championship games will be New England versus Denver and Arizona versus Carolina. And we'll talk about that when it actually happens. So there you go. There's the NFL preview. You're welcome. So now let's shift gears big time. Big time shift. We don't talk a lot about non-sports matters on Out of Bounds. We usually tackle that in other mediums. But let's talk a little Making a Murderer. If you don't know what it is, it's a Netflix docu-series. It's a documentary, but it's in a 10-episode, hour an episode thing. So it's not just a movie. It's 10 episodes, an hour long each, 10 hours total of a crime from like 2005. And I'm not going to go through the whole crime or anything. I'm not going to go through the whole show. But if you've watched it, I'm going to discuss the show because I finished it this weekend. So I'm going to discuss what I think and what I thought about the show and my theories or whatever. If you have not watched Making a Murderer, if you're interested in watching Making a Murderer and you don't want to know what happens, I give you permission to go ahead and skip over this part or eliminate the show. You can do something else. Listen to some Justin Bieber. We are about to do some spoilers. We're about to talk Making a Murderer. All right. Spoiler alert. Let's go ahead. Here we go. That show was gripping. I wasn't going to watch it. And then I was like, well, everyone's talking about it. I do love true crime stories. Paradise Lost, awesome documentary. That's an actual movie. It's not a series or anything. Loved that. And I heard it was a lot like Paradise Lost. So I was like, well, I'll watch it. I'll give it a chance. That's what it's all about. And I was absolutely hooked. By episode 4, I was canceling plans. I was canceling plans just to watch the show. I was staying up. I was late to work. I was missing morning work. I was doing all kind of stuff just to watch this show. I started watching it maybe Wednesday. I think I watched 2 episodes Wednesday, 2 episodes Thursday, 3 episodes Friday, and then the rest Sunday. And it was a hell of a docuseries. And obviously, it's one-sided. It's obviously biased towards Steve Avery and his innocence. Or maybe not even the idea of innocence, but just the idea that there could be something wrong with the system. Right? My theory is, I don't know if he's innocent or not, but I do know, without a shadow of a doubt, Teresa Malbach was not killed in the garage or Stephen Avery's room. That's what I believe. There's no way you can possibly tell me that Brendan Dassey and Steve Avery chained her up to a bed, slit her throat, stabbed her, sexually assaulted her, whatever, then shot her 11 times, took her body to this burn pit, but there was never, ever any of her blood, any of her DNA, any of her hair, any of her sweat, anything. Nothing on the walls, nothing on the bed, nothing on the carpet, nothing on the sheets, nothing on anywhere in the entire compound besides the burn pit. And these 2 cats weren't, brain surgeons. They were barely just like functioning humans. So I don't think that the biggest problem I had with the whole thing was that everything was so contradictory to each other. Like Brendan Dassey's statement, okay? Brendan Dassey's statement was that they sexually assaulted her and slit her throat and whatever in the bedroom. Then took her to the burn pit, shot her 11 times. That was his statement, which he then said was not true. Steve Avery was found guilty on the idea that she was killed in the garage. She wasn't killed in the bedroom. Brendan Dassey was also found guilty. So how can they both be found guilty for the same crime that happened in 2 different places? That made no sense to me. You have Brendan Dassey, who's arrested for sexual assault, murder, mutilation of a corpse, all that stuff that stemmed from this thing in the bedroom. Steve Avery, who didn't get hit with a sexual assault charge. So Brendan Dassey's story, the story that got him found guilty, cannot be true by the simple fact that if it was true, then Stephen Avery's guilty verdict would have been mirror images. It would have been Stephen Avery is guilty for sexual assault, a murder in a bedroom, whatever. They're the same. They can't be at the same time with being different. The stories are completely different. And there was a few pieces of evidence that were unexplainable to me. Unexplainable. They should have been like, oh, I heard that piece of evidence, not guilty. Or, there's no way. First piece of evidence was that the blood, Teresa Malbach's blood and hair in the RAV4, in her car, when it was found in her car. The only reason she would have been in the car bleeding or whatever is if they would have transported her somewhere. And the burn pit was 20 feet outside of Stephen Avery's trailer. So he obviously wasn't getting her in the car to transport her to the burn pit. So that means that she had to be in the car when she was bleeding or whatever. Which goes to the theory of someone brought that body, that car, to the Avery compound, which is what I believe happened. I believe that that car was brought to the compound, took as far away from the compound as it could be, on the outskirts of the compound, covered in sticks and stuff. She was taken to the burn pit, or her remains were taken to the burn pit, and that was it. That's what I think happened. There is a car compactor on the campus, or the compound. There's a smelter on the compound. If they wanted to destroy the car or hide the car, they could have easily used the car compactor. If they wanted to burn the body, they could have just used the smelter. They didn't have to create a big bonfire. And then you say, well, maybe they weren't that smart. Well, you're already giving them credit of being that smart by saying that they could completely DNA clean a bedroom, a living room, a hallway, basically the entire compound of her DNA. So that forensic scientists in an 8-day mission cannot find anything, a trace of nothing. So you can't, that's what the whole thing was. You can't give them credit for cleaning everything and then discredit them by saying, well, they're not smart enough to destroy the car or use the smelter or whatever. I mean, if Stephen Avery had been innocent or was free for 3 weeks, commits a murder, let's just say he does commit the murder, don't you think he would have taken her somewhere else besides 15 feet outside of his bedroom to burn the body? Don't you think he would have taken the car anywhere else? He worked at an auto salvage yard. It would have been the easiest thing ever for him to destroy the car, for him to melt the car, for him to crush the car. That's what they did. That's what the whole compound was destroyed cars or whatever. If he was to do the crime, he probably could have got away with it if he wanted to. By taking the body or remains anywhere else, by destroying the vehicle, by using the smelter, using the car compactor. What you don't do is, O.J. Simpson didn't drop the murder weapon in his front yard. That doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. So I think what happened was, if you had me, hey, what do you think happened? Who do you think did it? I think who did it was the Dassey and the father-in-law, Towditch or whatever. The two that passed each other hunting, the two that passed each other the day of the murder when they passed each other and said that they knew exactly what time they passed each other. They gave each other an alibi. I think they did it because I think that they had access to Teresa Malbach. They knew that she was going to be out there. They were familiar with her. The Towditch guy had former allegations for sexual assault, violence, all that stuff. And I think they may have accidentally killed her or killed her on purpose, whatever. And they realized that they could set this thing up to frame Steve. And they knew that once they targeted in on Steve, who lived at the exact same place, so any evidence that was found could just be pinned on Steve. Once they knew that, they just framed the evidence. I don't think the police necessarily framed Steve. I think that they just knew that they wanted to get their guy. So they may have helped with the evidence to do that. I think that the two guys, the other Dassey and the stepfather, took the car out to the outskirts, maybe even burned the body and in the burn pit or whatever. and set the whole thing up. Because once they pinned it on Steve, there's no way those two could get caught. There's no way. Because all the evidence that was found could not be put to them who lived in the exact same place, because it was going to be put on Steve. And then the police did the rest of it for him, because the police helped them out, or helped the prosecution, by basically pinning the whole thing off on Steve and Brendan. I mean, if you watch the show, then you understand that Brendan Dassey gave a statement that was completely wrong. He admitted he was lying. How many times did you see him go back and say, I didn't do that. I messed up. I got interrogated. I got bullied in the interrogation. I didn't do it. I screwed up. That kid obviously was not at full capacity mentally. He got bundled by a couple of cops in interrogation situations. He got mistreated by his own defense team. His own lawyers sold him out. They basically forced him to do the drawings of that day, and his whole life is thrown away for it. And Steve didn't have a shot. Steve didn't have a shot from Jump Street. Once they found what they found, the two Brendan Dassey and Steve Avery were arrested for a murder, rape situation. The only DNA that was found was Steve Avery's in 3 splotches of blood in the RAV4. No fingerprints in the RAV4, just blood. The bullet in the garage, one single bullet, even though she was shot 11 times, one single flattened bullet, and that was it. And her car key. That was it. Brendan Dassey's DNA is nowhere. 0 DNA, 0 sweat, 0 hair, 0 anything. And remember, there was that awful description of this sexual assault, murder, this awful thing in this bedroom, and no one's hair was found, no one's skin, no one's sweat, no one's blood, no one's anything. And the victim, Teresa's, none of her DNA was found anywhere. The entire compound. There's no way those two could have done that. I think what happened was she was killed in the RAV4 or around the RAV4, outside, around it, whatever, by the other Dassey and Taldick. Was taken, the body was then burned and taken to the burn pit, buried underneath there because they knew they were going to have a bonfire. Then the bonfire happened on top of the remains and all that stuff. And that was it. They might not have. They had the remains, put them in trash bags, put them in the bonfire, whatever. That's how they got there. The RAV4, after it all happened, the two took it to the outskirts, and that was it. They knew the rest was going to be easy. They knew the rest was going to be cake, absolutely cake. That's what I thought would happen with Making a Murderer, and I thought it was a hell of a docuseries. If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're still listening, because I just spoiled the whole thing. But go watch it. It's awesome. And if you paused it and picked back up, then here we are. We are basically out of time. I went over all of the national championship preview that I did in Friday's episode 40 of Out of Bounds. So if you want the national championship game is tonight. So if you want any of that analysis or any of that preview, go to Friday's episode of Out of Bounds episode 40, and that is where we did all the national championship conversation. If you don't feel like going back and you just want the script, the Spark Notes version, I think Alabama's going to win. I think they're also going to cover. I would take Bama -7. I think Deshaun Watson is not going to be able to run the ball 20 times like he did in Oklahoma. I think that the only way you'll know very quickly if Clemson will be able to handle Alabama is if Clemson gets out there, spreads them out, and can do things with different formations and different plays. And there's no way they can possibly go head up with Alabama and stay in the game. And I think as the game gets on and gets longer and longer, then the Alabama defensive line, the linebackers will start to penetrate, get to Watson, and unless Deshaun Watson has a whole entire season of Heisman plays into one game, Clemson's going to get smashed. So look for Alabama to be holding the crystal ball Monday night. Thanks, guys, again for listening. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you made it this far, then I'm guessing you did. And if you did make it this far, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or Stitcher. It helps your boy out a lot. Guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the National Championship games. I'll talk to you on Friday.